Ah, there we go. I thought I disappeared for for a second. I forgot to. Here, hold on. What's this? Oh, okay. It was just my imagination. That's what it was. Ah. Oh yeah. So last time. Okay, I wrote it down. Good. So last time there was a guy that we were supposed to be interviewing, but then he died and there was he ate us a bunch of sumo stickers. Um and then the detectives looked at our board we made and they talked about psychic powers. So now we're thinking maybe the killer uses psychic powers to kill. And then later at home, we had a delusion of the killer, possibly the killer. And killed everyone. And then after that, we went back to the hospital to get our phone. We haven't found it yet. But we were in. It's like we went back to the hospital to get it, and like it was like in that room where they keep the dead bodies. We were in there, and then we had to hide in one of those little box things, from the people that were there. And then we left off about to go down some stairs because there was a secret door. So yeah. Now let's hope I saved. I'm sure I did, but every time I was sure. Yes, I did! Yay! I tried to dance. I'm moving too fast for the camera to pick me up. Maybe if I turn this light a little. Ow, now it's in my eyes. That's okay. That's how you know the light is on your face, is if it's in your eyes. We all looked at each other and nodded a little, then began to descend the staircase. What's down there? As we went down, it got darker and the air got heavier and more humid. And after we'd gone down for a few minutes, we ran into a door. We'd probably gone down about a floor. I turned the knob and it opened easily. Maybe it hadn't been locked to begin with. Yeah, well, it's behind a secret door, so why would it need to be locked? It was dimly lit, musty-smelling hallway. It was clear that the place hadn't been abandoned and there wasn't a layer of dust anywhere. It even felt like it had been cleaned. But it felt so old. There was a sense of desolation, as if no one had wanted to use this place for anything for a very long time. It had been like this since the hospital above was built. And the air... I knew it! What'd you know? What does it smell like up there? Down there? What'd you know? The sides of my head started to hurt as the horrible memories came back. Sarika seemed to remember too. That's right. This was the place. I didn't know how we'd done it. But when we were kids, the two of us had snuck in here into the basement of A.H. Tokyo General Hospital. We were trying to investigate an urban legend about Amy. And then Sarika and I... we'd seen it. I tried to avoid thinking about it as much as I possibly could. But I failed. The memory would come back to me, then fade, then come back again. As I'd grown up, I'd even tried to convince myself that I'd never seen anything at all. But I failed at that too. It was unreal, like something out of a nightmare, but something in my heart told me that it was real. And it was real after all. Yes. It was real. I was sure of it. But But our phone's probably down here. Ito realized that there was something wrong with Sarika and I, and tried to pull us back up the stairs. But we couldn't do that. What was that? Oh, footsteps. There were suddenly footsteps behind us. Huh? I could hear what sounded like the panting of a beast behind me. I could feel its warm, stinking breath on my neck. Who is it? The booger man? I couldn't turn around. I wanted to fall to the ground in terror. But if I did that, I knew somehow that thing behind me would attack. Suddenly, I heard Sarika's thin, frail voice. She should have been right next to me, but for some reason I couldn't see her. And then her voice cut off. And then there was the sound of something being crushed. And then the sound of what sounded like someone kneading a ball of meat. Yeah! And mixed with it was the sound of snapping bones. Oh no! No! Ito turned around and suddenly froze with terror.
Miyashiro. Are? Nandayo? Oi.
No, you idiot, don't look. If you look, it will kill you. So don't look. Ah! A bloody piece of meat fell to the ground at our feet. It was what used to be Sarika. What? Ito screamed. I couldn't help myself. I turned around to look at what he was seeing. And what I saw was... it was standing there, moaning in a voice that was filled with hatred and pain. Whoa! Chapter 5? Wait. So last time, when when I when I left off, I was so close. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna make it to the next chapter, so I just left off at that spot. That's okay. That's okay. What was that? What the hell was that? A giant woman with a head like a sumo sticker? It was almost like a bad joke. I wanted to laugh. This hilarious looking monster was going to be what killed me? What the hell kind of death was that? Tee. That's how you laugh. If you laugh, that thing isn't scary at all. That's right, you laugh. The giant woman's hand stretched out for me. As it moaned in pain, its arms moved to crush me. And suddenly, my vision went black. I couldn't see anything. And then I realized it had probably crushed my eyes. That hilarious-looking sumo sticker woman had crushed my eyes. I was going to be torn apart like Sarika. And killed. It was the funniest thing in the world. Could you even imagine anything stupider? I don't know what I'm doing. Suddenly, I heard a sharp voice next to me. Something moved over my mouth to stop me from laughing. I was grabbed from behind, and thin but powerful arms were wrapped around my neck. It hurt. I couldn't breathe. What? I nodded as hard as I could. And then the hands around my neck relaxed, and it became much easier to breathe. My vision came back at the same time. Whoever grabbed me and covered my eyes, as well as my mouth, they hadn't been crushed after all. Donk! I doubled over in pain as she punched me in the stomach. I could feel stomach acid coming up into my throat and burning it. But the pain made my head feel much clearer. When I looked up, I didn't see a monster with the head of a sumo sticker anymore. Just a dark, musty hallway. Where'd it go? Guess it had other plans or something.
大丈夫かおい尾上人僕は何をなんか発作を起こしたんだよしかも急に叫び出して
私たちもパニックになりそうだったのそしたら久野里さんが助けてくれて
久野里さん
Kunosato, wasn't that... Oh, right! The girl who was with Shinjo.
全く素人どもがこんなところで何をしている
Yeah, I remember that cold voice. I looked back at the speaker.
やっぱりこの人か。
お前たち、誰かに連れてこられたというわけではなさそうだな。ということは、まさか忍び込んできたのか。どうやって。
Yeah, we snuck in.
どうって。
How?
私たちですらここのキーを入手するのにかなりの苦労を強いられたんだ。なのになぜ。
Sure, we had a bit of a bad time in the autopsy room, but it hadn't really been hard to get here. None of the doors had been locked. When I told her that, Kunosato glared at us with suspicious eyes.
久野里さん。
まあいい。とにかく邪魔だ。今すぐ帰れ。
Okay.
おいおい、そりゃないだろ。助けてくれたのは感謝するけどさ、いきなり邪魔者扱いとか。
He also got punched. The next instant, Kunosato had closed the gap between Ito and herself and started strangling him. Why, you little...
騒ぐなと言ったのが聞こえなかったのか。
Ito nodded, tears coming from his eyes. I could understand why. I don't know how she could store so much power in her tiny body, but I just felt it myself. Ito rubbed his throat in pain as she let him go.
もう一度言う。邪魔だ。帰れ。
Her voice was intimidating enough that I almost obeyed, but we'd come here for a reason. And this place had something to do with our past. If I could, I wanted to find out what happened then. Maybe we could be rid of the nightmare that had been making us suffer for so long. So, even though she scared me, I needed to tell her straight.
僕たちは。
私たちはやらなきゃいけないことがあってきたんです。そんな風に頭ごなしに帰れって言われても帰れません。
尾上。
That was what I was trying to say.
尾上。お前。尾上セリカか。
そうですけど。何か？
いや、とにかく帰るんだ。
危険なのは分かってます。でも僕たちだってどうしても。
誰がお前たちの心配をしている？
え？
私は私の目的があってここにいる。お前たちに勝手な行動をされて、その目的の遂行を邪魔されては困ると、そう言ってるんだ。
But what'd you come here to do? How cold?
その目的って何なんです？
お前たちには関係ない。
She turned around, then started to walk away.
いいですよ。だったら僕たちも勝手にしますから。
しますから。
Yeah. She turned around and stared at us. Her glare was like a fierce panther's. I swallowed my words, but Tsurika didn't.
理由も話せないような人の言うことになんて従いません。
貴様。
さあ、タク、しんちゃんも行こう。急いでタクのスマホ見つけなきゃ。
ああ。やっぱ女っていざって時強えな。
Ita whispered in my ear.
だったらおとなしくついてこい。私の言うことに逆らうなよ。
いいんすか？
Ita had been very polite toward her after she strangled him.
時間がないんだ。しかも、ここまで慎重に調査を進めてきたのに、お前たちが見つかったり、騒ぎを起こされでもしたら、すべてが水の泡になる。
Her arrogant manner was almost enough to make me talk back to her, but then I realized something. If she'd done a lot of careful investigation, that meant she had information that we didn't. So, wouldn't it be better to pretend and obey for now?
それで最後にはこっちが利用してやる。
話は終わりだ。壁沿いに静かについてこい。大きな音や声は出すな。
She looked down the hallway and moved over to the wall. And then she started to move quickly and quietly. I made eye contact with Ito and Serika, then followed her. The further down the hallway we went, the darker it got. The lights were sporadically placed. Oh, hello! How's it going? Hello. The lights were sporadically placed, and half of them were burnt out. You had to look carefully to see more than a few meters ahead. I'm doing fine. How are you? Oh, that's good. I'm doing good. Yeah. The only thing I had to guide me were the black-haired girl in front of me and the wall that I was touching with my hand. The wall hadn't been repaired for a long time. In some places, the paint had fallen off, and in parts, the steel beams underneath were exposed. This place must have been built a long, long time ago. We walked through the underground labyrinth as quietly as we could. None of my 5 senses were of any use to me now. I had no idea where I was or how I'd gotten there. But Kunosato seemed to know exactly where she was going. Looking back, maybe we were lucky to meet her. Wow! Oh! Just pass. Thank you. Thank you for the follow. Hee hee. I had no idea how long we'd been walking. But we finally came to a part of the hallway with a row of doors on the opposite wall. The doors were made of steel and looked very strong. On the upper part of each was what looked like a number plate. There were tiny windows on the doors, but they had thick bars on them. They looked like the solitary confinement cells I'd seen on TV show once. What's up, Clarabelle? How are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. Yay! Thank you. Yeah, it's good. It's going good today. Well, how's your day? For real, I thought that I was following your channel. Well, at least I'm following now. Yeah, at least you're following now. Yay!
この中に人が？いや、まさかな。
The space beyond the bars was pitch black, and I couldn't tell if there was anything inside.
なんか気味悪いな。
だから黙って歩け。
すいません。
Ito quickly apologized, but Kunisata turned around, walked up to him, and wrapped her hand around his throat again.
遊びじゃないんだ。お前、死ぬぞ。
Yeah, one way or another. Ito nodded again and again, until she finally glared at him one last time and let him go. He put his hand on his throat and moaned a little. It was obvious that Kunosato wasn't messing around. Maybe this place was more dangerous than I thought. How can a dark hallway in a basement be dangerous? Suddenly, I heard the sound of someone pounding on the door from the inside. I'm doing good. I went to a small library to get some pens and medical pencils. Then I ate an omelet with some rice, beans, and fried plantains. Very delicious. Ooh, nice. Well, that sounds fun. Plantains, like those little guys in the ocean. That's cool. Oh, are you playing a visual novel? It looks interesting. I am. We just got to chapter 5. Plantains are in fried banana? Ooh, yum. Nice. Someone was inside?
なんなんだよ、おい。
静かにしろ。騒ぐな。
They're good, and you still have potassium. Yeah! Potassium, potassium, potassium. But we almost screamed, but when we saw Kunisata's glare, we quickly put our hands over our mouths. What the hell was that voice? Sarika tugged frantically at my arm. Then Ito grabbed onto me too. I wanted to cling to someone too, but there was no one for me to grab.
あれ、あっちの扉の中から目が。
何？
I looked over where Ito was pointing and tried to see for myself. But I couldn't see anything.
気のせいだろ。いや、確かに見た。間違いなく目だった。
Eyes? What kind of eyes? Now there was singing? I could hear a girl singing it in a tiny, barely audible voice. Creak, creak. A woman pushing an old baby carriage down the hallway towards us. She was the one singing. What is she singing? Sarika and Ito cringed in terror. My heart was beating so fast and so loud that I could hear the sound of echoing in my ears.
止まれ。壁に張り付いてじっとしているわ。向こうにはこっちが見えていない。
What is she, a dinosaur?
いいから喋るな。
Well, I guess what else can you do? You're in a hallway. Kunosato pushed her back up against the wall and stopped breathing. We did the same, our bodies shaking with fear as we moved.
もっとお歌歌ってほしいのね。
Yeah, sing some more! Sing that song, sing this song. Creak, creak. The sound of the creaking old carriage got closer and closer as the woman passed near us. Kunosato was right. Her eyes were hazy and out of focus, and she didn't seem to notice us. But she was only a meter away. Here she comes! Slowly, slowly. She sang as she pushed the carriage right past us. Ito was so terrified his body started to spasm. He gave a small cry. Now, what would you do in this situation? The woman stopped right in front of us and slowly turned around. Her empty eyes stared at us, and then slowly, jerkily, like a broken machine, she tilted her head. So she can see us. We clung to the wall and held our breath, unable to move a muscle. We were too scared to move, to even close our eyes. I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted out. I wanted to get away from here. If I stayed here another minute, I was gonna go crazy. The woman stared at us for what felt like hours. And then she looked forward once more as if nothing had happened and started to walk again. There she goes. Bye-bye. We almost collapsed to the ground in relief. I couldn't take my eyes off her as she disappeared into the darkness.
自分たちがどういう場所にいるのか少しは分かったか
No. I don't know where we're at. Even as we'd been almost crushed by the terror, Kunosato had been completely calm.
帰りたいと泣いてももう遅いからなそこが目的の部屋だ
That room? What room? That one down there? That door? All the way down there? Kunosato moved away from the wall and stared straight in front of us.
目的の部屋
Yeah, what about that room? What's in there? I followed her gaze to a pair of double doors in the darkness. They were different than the others. They looked like the doors to a normal lab.
遅れるな
Kunosato headed toward the doors, seemingly completely unafraid. Sarika's legs were shaking too much for her to move, so Ito and I helped her as we followed. When we got to the door, Kunosato took out what looked like a card key from her skirt pocket. Hold on, I might sneeze. Never mind, I'm not gonna sneeze. The door had a modern electronic lock, unlike the others we'd seen so far. Beep beep beep. Bloop. She put the card key up to the reader and the door swung open silently. She disappeared into the room and we quickly followed. We all gasped as we entered the room. An entire wall of the room was lined with monitors. They were probably set up to observe something, but every one of them was off, so there was no way to tell what. But it was hard to believe that someone would set up something like this in a normal hospital.
Hi.
Kunosato turned toward Ito and gave him an order in a flat, emotionless
見張
voice.
りくらいはやってもらおう。ドアの外の音に注意してろ。誰か来たら知らせるんだ。
了解。
Kunosato nodded, looked around the room, and then headed straight for a computer. Which one? Then we took a look at the writing behind it, and then flipped the power switch. The machine started to make a low noise.
動くんですか？
見ればわかるだろう。
でも勝手に立ち上げたりして大丈夫なんすかね？
どうして？
だってネットで繋がってたりしたら動かしてることバレるんじゃ。
心配ない。こいつがスタンドアローンだということは確認してある。
Oh, that explains it. If that was true, at least we wouldn't have to worry about someone seeing it from the outside.
お前たちが思いつくようなことを私が考えないとでも思ったのか。バカにするなよ。
She was as obnoxious as ever. Neither of us knew the first thing about you, though, so can you really blame us? It was something that neither Ito nor I could say. The OS on the computer booted up. I looked at the screen and saw Kunosato was entering some kind of password. What's the password? The password was accepted and the screen filled with several folders. She opened them up and began carefully checking the contents of each one. Unfortunately, many of the files were written in English, and we had no idea what they said. Kunosato, however, was reading through each one and nodding.
これはフォルダ自体にパスがかかってるな。ということはこの先か。
She seemed to be trying to unlock the password at incredible speed.
なんだよ。
彼女、学校で見たことあるか？
いや、どうしてだ？
学校にいたんだよ。うちの制服着て。だから、うちの生徒のはずなんだけど。そうか。お前も見たことないのか？
マジかよ、それ。
Ita seemed more shocked than I expected.
嘘だろ。こんな美人、俺がチェックしてなかっただとは。
Not only was she attractive, she seemed incredibly smart. And she had an arrogant attitude that made her nothing like the other students. If she had been coming to school, she would have stood out in both a good and bad way. But Ito didn't know her.
何を調べてるんですか？
Serika asked the question that both Ito and I had been too afraid to ask. I was sure she'd been told to shut up, but...
この施設で何が行われていたかだよ。
She answered Serika's question much more easily than I expected. Then maybe I could ask something too.
この施設って病院とは何か関係が？
黙ってろと言っただろうが。
Nope, you can't ask a question. Damn it. Why was I getting treated so differently? Was it because Serika was a girl? Was she one of, you know, those types? What? Don't tell me she normally dressed and acted like a boy. That would explain why Ito didn't know her. Kunosato ignored me and typed in a series of commands, then opened what looked like a top-secret file. And then...
Jared.
She smiled for the first time that I'd ever seen and clicked on a file. And then something appeared on the screen. Whoa. It was some kind of drawing. It was a strange picture drawn in ink and paint.
何これ？落書き？
いや違う。あれは。
It seemed I'd seen it somewhere before. It was...
そうか。ロールシャッハテストだ。
I remember reading about them in an issue of Cool Cat Press.
ほう。抜けた顔しているが、最低限の知識はあるようだな。
I wasn't sure if that was a compliment or an insult. However you want to take it. Do you think it's a compliment? You can take whatever you want as a compliment.
テスト？
あれだ。確か性格診断かなんかの。
Ow! Oh my goodness! I hurt myself. Ow. I bent my fingers too much.
そう。インクのシミでできた全く意味のない図形が何に見えるかで、その人の性格や思考が分析できるんだ。
正確に言えば、インクのシミを落とした紙を真ん中で折り曲げ、それで生じた左右対称の図形を使う。
Just like Kunosato said, all the pictures on the screen were almost perfectly symmetrical.
ただし、ロールシャッハテスト自体、果たして精神分析法として有効かどうか、疑問視もされているんだがな。
Kunosato was studying the screen intensely.
ってことは、ここはその上にある精神科と同じような施設だったということですか?
If that was the case, I could imagine what these monitors were there for. They were to look at each of the patient's rooms. That would mean that this was a medical facility that treated illnesses. At least, that's what I wanted it to mean. Because... the things Serika and I had seen as a child. That strange atmosphere that we'd sensed. And that voice which I could still hear in my ears. We abandoned her and ran away from this place. So, if that wasn't some kind of torture chamber, and this place was actually curing her, Sarika and I would be free of the guilt that had been with us for so long. Well, also, you were kids, right? What could you do? But my
違う
hopes...
ここはそんな生優しい場所じゃない
were quickly dashed by Kunisato's answer. She opened another folder. It was filled with reports written in Japanese this time.
センスへの断続的刺激による臨床実験ロブスに与える電気信号とフェノメノン思った通りここでは脳科学方面からのアプローチによる臨床実験が行われていたようだな
脳科学臨床実験って？
うるさい余計な口を挟むな
でも僕のよく知ってる子がここにいたかもしれないんです。
何
I lied. I didn't know who she was. But if I didn't lie, it didn't feel like she was going to tell me anything. Just as I expected, she turned around. I saw the first faint glimmerings of interest in me on Kunisato's face. It gave me a brief I gave her a brief description of what I'd witnessed here so long ago. Kunisato bit her lip. Her expression was different than before. But then she forced herself to look back at the computer.
はあそれは間違いなく人体実験だ
人体実験
No, then that meant... Then that meant she was... That horrible vision started to eat away at me again.
簡単に言えば人間の脳をいじる実験だよ
脳をいじるってそんな
だから言っただろここはそんな生優しい場所じゃないと
Kunisato was trying to keep her face as expressionless as possible. And then the second she opened up another file, she gasped a little. I could see the words on the screen as well.
ちょっと待てなんだよあれ
Can I see the words on the screen? What does it say? She was completely focused on reading the report. She didn't notice that I was looking over her shoulder as well.
超感覚的知覚に関する臨床実験特殊な事象異変を発現させるための具体的傾向
What were event fluctuations? Kunisato clicked the mouse and it moved to the next page. I read along with her.
視覚刺激による発症的中率 9.25% 中脳辺縁系ニューロンのドーパミン分泌の誘発による発現視床下部損傷と切除発症見られず思考のトレースリモートビューイング妄想の増幅による事象への影響
Over half the report was filled with specialized language that I didn't really understand. But But by desperately connecting the words I didn't know, I managed to make some sense out of the report. And
まさかそんなことが。
I was stunned. Was that really possible? The girl who cried to us for help was being experimented on here? And the point of those experiments was...
人間の脳をいじって超常的な特殊能力を発症させる実験？
I don't know if you can do that. That explains why Shinjo and Kunosato were talking about psychics. And that was... commonality? And that was commonality that I'd suspected was lurking behind the murders.
おい
Kunosato caught me looking and threatened me in a low voice. But I didn't have time to worry about that.
これ本当なんですか？こんな SF みたいなことが本当に。
She looked unhappy, but gave in.
実験自体は随分と前から行われていたようだ。というよりもこの病院自体がその実験のカモフラージュのために建てられたと考えてもいい。
この病院が？
The entire hospital?
ああ、
それで今は？
はあ？
今は行われてるんですか？その実験。
If that was true, was she still here?
いや、ある出来事をきっかけに中止されたらしい。
Hold on, it's getting a little chilly. I gotta get a little blankie. But it's right here, so. Yay. Something?
中止されたのはちょうど6年前。2009年11月6日。
それって
渋谷地震の日。
地震のせいで研究どころじゃなくなったのか？
いいや違うな。この病院は震源域の外だ。被害は全く受けていない。
じゃあどうして？
だからそれを探って。
Kunosato stopped it short and clicked her tongue. She must have decided she told us too much.
いいからおとなしくしていろ。
She pushed me away from the screen lightly. It looked like she didn't want me to read anymore.
これは。
What is it? Kunosato's hand froze on the mouse. She was staring intensely at the screen. Then she started to talk to herself.
11番目のロールシャッハが脳に与える影響。11番目。
The 11th? She just knocked me away so that I couldn't see the screen, but I couldn't help but lean forward. Her voice was just that strange.
どうしたんですか？
ロールシャッハテストには10種類の絵しか存在しない。11番目なんて聞いたことも。だから黙ってろお前。
Kunosato turned around and glared at me. When she did, I got a glimpse of the monitor. Wow. The screen was filled with thumbnails of the different this is a hard word to say. Rosettes? Yep, I did it. I don't know if I did actually. I can say I did, right? And Kunasato was just about to click on this mysterious 11th. Kunasato clicked to open the file. When she did, what is it? What appeared on the screen was...
力士シール
Whoa. Ah! That's how they screamed. Ah! What was going on? Oh, yeah. Hold on, I'm trying to dance. Come on. Okay, that's enough trying to dance. I felt sick. I couldn't stand. I collapsed to the floor. It felt like something was crawling out from the bottom of my intestines. That something was... bugs? Tiny, slimy bugs with lots of little feet were crawling up from my stomach and into my throat, scattering disgusting fluids behind them as they moved. Ew! Ew. The disgusting crawling sensation passed through my throat and out into my mouth. What the hell were these things? Stop it! Help me! I feel sick! Help me! Get out of my body!
タクタク、しっかりしてよ。タクって。
Huh? Did I fall asleep? No, that wasn't it. I looked at this. I looked at the screen and gotten sick, and then passed out. Where was I? My head felt awfully cold.
なんだか気持ちがいいね。
Huh? I could hear Sarika's voice, but I couldn't see her. Where was
ほ
I?
ら見て見て。しんちゃんたらあんな格好になってる。
Ito was here?
私とタクもお揃いだね。
Matching? What was she talking about? When I looked to the side and saw it, my head cleared instantly. Sarika was next to me, lying in the same kind of seat I'd seen the girl in the vision sitting in. Was strange was her head. There was something on top of it. Slimy and pink. No, that wasn't it. That was... That was her brain! On top of Sarika's skull was completely gone, with several electrodes sticking out of what remained. I suddenly heard a high-pitched voice from the other side. It took some time before I realized that it was the voice that the voice belonged to Ito. That's how insane it sounded. couldn't tell if Ito was screaming in pain or pleasure. His head was... His brain was exposed, and part of it seemed to be missing.
気持ちいいねトク。
I tried to move, but I was held down tight and couldn't budge. I heard a cold voice from above my head. The voice was...
今すぐお前もあいつのようにしてやる。だからじっとしているがいい。
No! Something cold touched my head. At least, that's how it felt. It felt good. Like my brain was going to let me... And soon I wasn't sure where I ended. And the rest of the world began. Oh. Huh? Where was I? I was back in the basement?
トク、大丈夫？
あ、大丈夫だ。起きられるか？ほら。
Ito slowly helped me to my feet.
軽い。僕、どうしたんだ？
画面にね、例の怖いシールがいきなりアップになったからびっくりしたんだよ。それで転んでタクは頭を打っちゃって。
そうか。
I rubbed the back of my head, and sure enough, there was a big bump. Kunosato was staring at me from in front of the screen. I thought she was going to complain again, but instead she pulled me up to look at the screen.
確かめてもらいたいことができた。来い。
あのシールなら許してください。なんか気分が優れなくて。
いや、あれじゃない。いいから来い。
見るなって言ったり見ろって言ったり。
なんだ。
わかりましたよ。
Since it was clear she wasn't going to take no for an answer, I stood next to her.
お前に確認してほしいのはこのファイルだ。
Kunosato tapped the report on the screen with her nails.
11番目のロールシャン派。さっきの画像に何らかの効果があるとみなされて、初めて実験に使用されたのが2007年とある。
2007 was 2 years before the Shibuya earthquake. That was right about the time people started to see the sumo stickers, if I remember right. And that was the same year we'd snuck into here to find out the truth about the urban legend of Amy. I took the mouse and read the next part.
自称変異を起こす素養を持つ存在のみが人の顔を模したように見える11番目の画像に対し、通常の人間とは異なる反応を示す。そのことが判明した。この症状が最初に観測されたのは被験体番号第79号南沢千里からであり。
And then I stopped scrolling down the screen. there was a picture of a girl there.
どうだ、その子に見覚えがあるか？
タク、この子。
あ、
Remember her? That was the girl. That was the girl we'd seen that day. That was the girl who'd seen us and begged for help. Kunosato looked at me.
さっき話していたこの施設にいたかもしれない友達というのはこの子なんだな。
はい。
I wasn't sure how to answer, but I decided to keep up the lie that she was my friend. The truth was, I'd only just now learned that her name was Senri Minamisawa.
そうか。
But Kunosato looked very sad. I didn't know she was even capable of looking that way. She stared at the picture of Senri Minamisawa on the screen.
私はお前のことを嫌いだが、ここで苦しんでいた友達をずっと忘れないでいることには敬意を払ってもいい。
Her eyes grew just a little softer. But I felt a cold sweat as I looked at them. It wasn't out of friendship that I'd never been able to forget the girl's name. Hold on. It wasn't out of friendship that I'd never been able to forget the girl named Senri. I feel like I said their name different each time. Or maybe, I don't know. The girl named Senri Minamisawa. It was because she was in my nightmare. But I couldn't say that. All I could do was try to make it hard to tell what I was really thinking.
本当は救いたかったのに、それができなかった。でも、それは仕方のないことだ。気に病むことはない。
そうじゃない。違うんだ。
I had been too afraid to save her. I abandoned her.
今、彼女はどうしているんだろう。
Kunosato didn't realize what I was thinking, though. She called up more data on the girl called Senri Minamisawa.
彼女は11番目の画像で特殊な兆候を見せた被験者としてかなり強引な実験を受けていたようだ。でも死ぬことなく生き延びた。
Forceful experiments? The kind that could kill you? When I heard that, I almost threw up. I did my best to keep Kunosato from finding out.
だが渋谷地震の時に運悪く震源域に居合わせて、それ以降は行方不明ということになっているな。
行方不明？
いや、正確にはこの実験施設が地震の直後に機能を終えてしまったため、彼女に関するデータが存在しないというのが正しい。ただ、地震の犠牲になった可能性は高いな。
そうですか。
It was horrible, but I felt a little less like throwing up. At least she hadn't died because of the experiments or because we'd abandoned her. Hearing that made me feel like I'd been forgiven a little. A violent scene of self-hatred overcame me again.
ごめん南沢千里さん
She'd been practically tortured here as part of those experiments, and then caught in the earthquake? But and then I felt something tingle at the edge of my memories.
南沢さん
Hadn't I heard that name somewhere before? But then, where and from who?
あれでも
Before I could think about it any further, Ito spoke up and hesitantly.
なんだ
この実験施設機能を終えたっておかしいですよ。その割にあちこちに人がいましたよね。それに小さな女の子も。
そうだよね。
俺たちその女の子を追ってここへ来たんです。ここが廃棄された施設って言うなら、あの子一体何を。
ああ、そのことか。
Kunasato closed the file on Senri Minamisawa, and her face took on its usual cool, emotionless expression.
ここは今、実験中にトラブルのあった被験者たちの保護施設として使われている。
実験中にトラブルのあった被験者
実験に失敗して脳に損傷を負ったり、正気を失った患者を程度によって軟禁もしくは監禁しておくための地下収容所ということだ。
A cold chill ran through my body.
まさかそんなことって
ありえね
ひどい。
目的のためならどんなことでもやる連中がいる。お前たちが相手にしているのはそういう連中なんだ。だから最初に警告してやったろ。
Kunasato opened another file.
これで見る限り現在でも20名近くの人間がここにいるようだな。
I'm falling! Get back up! There we go! She scrolled down the page, and a new picture appeared.
待ってくださいその子
Who is it? That was the girl we'd been following.
間違いないよ、タク。名前は、山添うきちゃん？
It
この
looks
子
like...
ももとも
Oh,
と実験に使われた被験者だったようだな。
this shattering revelation was presented to us as a mere matter of fact, as if it was the most ordinary thing imaginable. Sarika covered her hand with her mouth, and her eyes went wide. Then she had suffered the same fate as Senri Minamasawa. Or Minami. Oops.
幸い彼女は最後まで正気を失うことなく実験に耐え生き残った。今はこのフロアで収容者たちの世話をする仕事を与えられているらしい。
収容者たちの世話
Why do I keep falling? There! I thought she was a criminal who'd stolen my smartphone and threatened me. And what's more, I thought she was either connected with the killer, or maybe that she was the killer herself. But now I wasn't sure.
いやダメだ見かけや生い立ちに騙されちゃダメだ 状況だと僕のスマホを拾えたのは彼女だけなんだ。それにここでの実験の被験者ということは何らかのその能力者の可能性だってある。解約したはずのスマホから電話してくるなんてゲート、そういう能力でもない限り不可能じゃないか。
As my mind raced, Kunosato was checking out every bit of the data on the machine. But
実験の結果、理想度の発言は全被験者の 0.01% に満たず失敗と断定。別の技術を模索すべきと結論。やっぱりか。バカな科学者どもが。
Kunosato sounded uncharis un 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 uncharis uncharistic. I can say it, I can do it. Uncharacteristically uncharacteristically ticked off as she closed all the folders and turned off the
理
PC.
想度
I know what that is. It's from the Chaos Head. That strange word snapped me out of my It seemed that was what she was looking for. I looked at her hoping for some kind of answer, but she just glared at me with terrifying eyes.
そろそろ時間的に限界だ。出るぞ。
え？
これ以上ここにいれば発見される。
でも僕たちの目的がまだ。
お前たちは計画がずさんすぎる。この施設内の構造すら知らないのだろ。
She was right. I'd snuck in here as a child, but that was all. I didn't remember the details.
そんなことでは探したところで無駄だ。
She was right. Damn it! But there must be some way. I looked around the room and saw the rows of monitors. If they were on, they could at least tell us what was going on around the facility. Maybe they could tell us where Uki Yamazoe. I'm sorry, I probably read that wrong. Was.
どうした宮代？
このモニターの電源がないか探してるんだよ。こいつが使えれば、あるいは。
無駄だ。そもそもその監視システム自体動いているのかも。
But it might be. Oh!
Huh?
Suddenly, the room was bathed in pale light. All the monitors on the wall turned on. All we could do was gasp. What? What we thought were security cameras were showing. Hundreds of sumo stickers. I almost screamed. I was so surprised. They're just inside the monitors on the wall. Was face after sumo sticker face, all looking at me. What was this? What was going on?
あれ、ここは。
おいおい、勝手に寝るんじゃない。
Why not? Kunosato? Huh? I was back in the chair? Was this a dream? Which was the dream? Was I dreaming of being in a chair? Or had I been dreaming of being in the monitoring room? My head felt really cold. Oh, that's right. They'd opened my skull.
お前はなかなかいい脳みそをしているな。
You think so? Did I?
ピンク色でシワが多くて、とても美味しそうだ。
それは喜んでいいんですか？
もちろんだ。さて、それじゃあそろそろいただくとするか。
For dinner? What's for dinner? My brain? Kunisata grinned with glee and took something metallic out of her pocket. No! A spoon?
人間の脳はこうして生きたまま食べるのがうまいんだ。
Huh? Who knew?
では、失礼して。
No! She was eating it! Kunisata was eating my brain?
ダメだ、止まらない。
No! No, no, no! Ah!
食べられるってこんなに気持ちがいいんだ。もっともっと食べて。僕は食べて。
Okay. Again? I had another weird delusion. I quickly shook my head and slapped my hands to my cheeks to snap me out of it.
なんかやだ。
気色悪い。
Sarika and Ito looked unhappy. It was because of the Suma sticker displayed on the monitors. I looked at the monitors once more, trying my best to avoid the Suma stickers.
あれはこの病院の中じゃない。
Some of the monitors were showing the inside of the hospital, but some were looking elsewhere. Street corners on Shibuya, signs under bridges, alleyways, overpasses, train station staircases, store walls. And then I realized all of the monitors with Suma stickers.
病院の外の監視カメラだけじゃないか。
Some of them I knew.
あそこは
That was the spot where Kurisu had been attacked. Of course, there were Suma stickers there.
なるほどな。探していたということか。
探していた。
Searching for what?
さっきのファイルに書いてあっただろ。特殊な事象変異を引き起こす人間は11番目のこの画像に反応を示すと。
Kunisata pointed to a corner of one of the monitors. I quickly looked away before I got a direct look at the Suma sticker. In other words, whoever was using this place put up the 11th I can do it. The 11th Rosette image all over Shibuya and used these cameras to find people who reacted to it. And then they took them here and did those horrible experiments? I remember what I'd seen happen to Senri Minamisawa and felt like I was going to throw up again. And then Kunosato made a sharp noise. She put her hand on one of the monitors to brush away the dust, then stared at it. It showed something moving. It showed something moving around in a dark room. There was no sumo sticker there. It wasn't an image of Shibuya or of the hospital above, so it was probably showing one of the rooms down here.
あの子
It was definitely the girl. On the screen. She was saying something to an old person lying on the bed and gently wrapping belts around their arms and legs.
急げ。もうじき警備が回ってくる時間だ。
That girl was my only clue as to where my smartphone was. Which meant that we had to find the room on the monitor. Kunosato suddenly told me that she knew where it was. She'd been so uncooperative so far, I had no idea why she suddenly decided to help. But when she saw the girl, she suddenly said that she'd go with us. Of course, I knew her well enough by now. She wasn't helping us. She'd simply taken an interest in that girl. At least, that's how I saw it. As we moved down the dim hallway, the temperature dropped, and the humidity went up.
ここだ。
She stopped in front of a door with strange words on the plate. Confinement Room 3. Kunosato opened the door a little, taking care to make as little noise as possible. I peeked inside. Peekaboo! That's what you say when you do that. And there I saw a world that I'd only ever seen in movies. There were rows of beds in the room. And there were what appeared to be prisoners lying in them. They had different ages and sexes. Some were old, some seemed young, and some of them I recognized. It was the old lady the girl had been walking with before.
23985599357
Some were screaming, some were counting numbers endlessly. One was a girl who was endlessly chewing her food. It seemed unreal. I remembered the woman with the baby carriage I'd passed before and felt cold sweat forming on my palms.
ここは
強度の OCSD 視床下部損傷による過食およびチューイング大脳半球損傷による反則空間無視障害全員脳をいじられてる
じゃあ
Here, wait.
ここの人たちはみんな
Let's see. OCSD, short for obsessive compulsive spectrum disorders, a spectrum of disorder with obsessive compulsive qualities such as the complication to repeatedly wash one's hands to wipe away an invisible stain. Disorders such as autism and Asperger's syndrome are also considered part of the spectrum. Chewing, a type of eating disorder seen in mental patients, refers to the act of endlessly chewing one's food rather than chewing and then swallowing it. Hemispatial neglect, the ability for a person to recognize stimuli that occur on either their left or right side caused by some of the damage to the brain. For example, if a patient with this disability was asked to draw a picture of an analog clock, they would only be able to draw half of the numbers. This is because their eyes see the entire clock. The brain is only able to recognize half of it.
そう簡単に処分することもできず、ここで飼い殺してる。
For a moment, the tone of her voice changed. It felt like there was a pale flame burning somewhere deep within her voice. It was a pale flame of rage, which seemed cold at first glance, but was in fact incredibly hot.
タク、
Sarika tugged at my sleeve and whispered. She pointed at the bed in the back with her other hand. I could see something moving past what looked like a curtain.
ごめんなさい。ちょっと窮屈だけど我慢してください。起きたらまたお散歩に行きましょうね。はい、今行きます。待っててください。
Someone appeared from within the curtain.
いた。あの子だ。
This girl, in the file Uki Yamazoe, didn't seem to notice us. She moved around from one patient to another, doing her best to take care of them.
よかった。彼女はまだちゃんと正気を保ってるようだ。
I could hear Kunasato whisper.
彼女からどうやってスマホを返してもらえばいいでしょう。説得とかしても聞いてくれるかどうか。むしろ警報でも鳴らされたら。
私はあの子をここから連れ出す。スマホの話なんて言うのはその後でいくらでも聞け。
え？
It took me a moment to figure out what she was saying. But by the time that I did, but by the time I did, she flung open the door to the room and leapt inside. Uki Yamazoe's eyes went wide at this sudden intruder? Yeah, intruder. Kunasato grabbed her hand.
誰ですか？
All the patients started to scream, afraid of the sudden commotion.
皆さん落ち着いてください。大丈夫ですから。
Yamazoe looked around the room and tried her best to calm the people there, even as Kunasato held on to her arm.
いいから来い。警備に気づかれる。早くしろ。だから
あなたは誰ですか？一体何ですか？
お前をここから解放してやる。
そんな嫌です。やめてください。
The girl named Uki Yamazoe went pale and tried to free herself from Kunisato's grip. She was completely in a panic. Kunisata must have decided that there was nothing to be gained by talking, because she quickly moved around behind her and put her arm on the girl's cardiac artery. Then she applied a very light pressure. There we go. Uki Yamazoe moaned just an instant, and then she slumped backwards into Kunisato's arms. She seemed to have passed out.
おい、
はい。
タイムリミットだ。はぐれたら置いていく。あとは知らん。ここの連中みたいになりたくなければついてこい。
She put the unconscious girl on her back, then ran outside the room without bothering to wait for us. I was stunned at her speed, but there was no time for hesitating.
尾上、いた。
I motioned to Sarika and Ito and ran out into the hallway. We followed after Kunisato as fast as we could. Just like she said, if we got lost here, we'd be caught for sure. And who knew what would happen to us then? I didn't know who was doing these experiments or why, but their victims were suffering horrible fates. As I ran, I felt as if their screams of rage were following me.
Mo, ダメだ。走れねえ。
We followed Kunisato as fast as we could, and then made it outside the hospital via a different route than before. Kunisato was sweating like a racehorse, and her breathing was heavy, but she never let her guard down for a second. Instead, she seemed to be looking around intensely. We were at the back of the hospital. This seemed like the exit, where they moved the corpse from the morgue to the hearse, right? Hearse, right? Wait. I think so, yeah. For that reason, there was a fence surrounding us that kept us hidden. Kunisato had evidently taken this fence into account in her escape plans from the start.
これからどうするんですか?
I was too out of breath to speak, so Sarika spoke for
地
me.
下施設はもう大騒ぎになってるはずだ。ここも間もなく見つかる。死にたくなければ足を動かせ。行くぞ。
We were almost at the rear gate to the hospital. She started to run toward it. We followed her with the last of our strength. There was a guard station there, but inside there were only 2 men asleep, heads pointed at the ceiling.
それほど長い効き目の薬は使ってない。急がないと目を覚ます。
Frantically made the way through the guard station and finally got past the hospital's outer walls. We ran a little longer and found a van parked on a secluded spot. There we go, I did it.
何よみおちゃん、ずいぶん賑やかじゃない？
It's Mose! A broad-shouldered woman looked up at us from the driver's seat. It was hard to tell how old she was. Her attitude and bearing made her look like an older person, but the mischievous grin on her face made her seem younger.
で、必要なことはつかめた？
ええ、あれだけの犠牲者を出しながら例の実験では結局理論を完成させることができなかったようです。
そう。
ディソードの発言にも確実性はなく、ギガロマニアックス実験は失敗だったと。
まあ、予想した通りよね。
ギガロだって。
And what was a D sword? Are we gonna do this all over again? It'll probably be a little faster this time with the D swords. Didn't she say something about that in the monitor room?
ただ、重要な情報源を見つけました。
Kurosato opened the door, opened the rear door, and laid Uki Yamazoe on the back seat.
その子が？
多分、実験の生き残りかと。保護。
え、それは。まあいいわ。しばらくうちで預かっとく。
頼みます。
Kurosato didn't even drop her attitude for Detective Shinjo. But now she is being polite? Just who was this woman?
で、そっちの子たちはお友達じゃないわよね。
こっちは使えるかどうか、後ほど判断します。私の家まで送っていただければ。
She seemed to be referring to us, but what did she mean by good? She was as arrogant as ever, and like usual, she was pissing me off.
了解。とにかくみんな乗りなさい。早く。
Her voice got a little sharper as she pointed to the middle seat on the back of the van. We could hear what sounded like a lot of yelling from the direction of the hospital. We quickly jumped inside and closed the door. Kunosato got in the first passenger seat. The van started quickly and headed off into the night. Whee!
ここだ。入れ。
ああ。
何をぼさっとしている。さっさとしろ。
お邪魔します。
人の家の中をじろじろ無遠慮に見るものじゃない。
This is how you live?
家って
Just kidding.
もしかしてここが久野里さんの？
そうだ。何か問題でもあるのか？
いや、だって。
The outside wasn't much better, but looking inside, it was hard to believe that there was still apartments this dumpy in Shibuya. The same was true of everything else in the room. Everything in the apartment was the cheapest kind you could buy. The only thing that was worth anything was the computer. Well, that's okay.
どうした宮下。
I pushed Ito out of the way and ran over to the computer. The monitor was still on. And the page... In the page there was one I'd seen many times. What is it? Shibuya News? And it wasn't the display version of the page that we'd seen so many times. The page was in the process of being edited.
嘘。もしかしてケイさん？
So, that was it. I thought I heard her voice somewhere before. Her voice was just too different from the gentle Kay that we were used to hearing. But that voice, without a doubt, Kay's.
嘘マジ K さんってあの K さん渋谷ニュースの
Whoa. Ito was pretty excited too, it seemed. Of course he was. Kay was someone we both admired. She was the ultimate right-sider. Since even I admitted it, she had to be the top of her class. I never thought I'd be able to meet her like this, though. But I can't say I'd ever imagined Kay having a weird personality like this. Kunasato was the girl who'd been insulting us the whole evening. Was the same person as the gentle Kay that we knew from Shibuya News? Well, yeah, it's just... I mean, you don't know someone that you listen to or watch. You just listen to or watch them. Which was the real one? I don't know. Maybe it's okay, you'll figure it out, I think. In my head, Kay brought us to her room. I thought I'd remember her saying she decided if we could use us later. Whoa! Okay, yeah, let's do one. Last time I pushed the wrong button and accidentally skipped all of it. I looked over. Okay, let's do a positive one. I don't think I've done a negative one yet, but I don't want to. And saw something strange in the corner of the room. A sword! The best way to describe it would be to call it a sword. That's a pretty cool sword. But I wasn't sure if most people who saw it would think that. Its design was complicated and frankly unrealistic. For some reason, looking at it made me feel uneasy. It made me feel really bad, actually. What was that? If someone had told me it was for cosplay, I'd probably believe them. If nothing else, it didn't match the image I had of the person in front of me. Not the Kay I knew from Shibuya News, or the Kunasato who'd been swearing at me the whole night. Did she maybe have a third identity? Maybe she was a famous cosplayer. Or maybe she was a toy artisan who made life-size weapons. Maybe she was an otaku who collected swords like this. Either way, it felt like a bad idea to mention it. Best to just ignore it. Best to pretend I never saw it. Alright, what's it gonna be? What's gonna happen?
Miyashiro.
え？
その件が気になるのか?
Maybe. Kunasato brought it up. And I was trying my hardest to ignore it.
いや、別に。
I tried my best to laugh and avoid looking at it. Kunasato must have sensed that I was doing what I was doing because she dropped the subject instead.
やはり、お前こそが真のアウグルなんだな。
She whispered. What was going on? Why had she brought us here? The window started to rattle. It must have been the wind. The only thing I could see outside the window were the streetlights shining in the darkness. For some reason, I felt very anxious. And then it came without warning. There was a huge crash as the window shattered. A black ball landed in the center of the room.
なんだ。
捕らえましたよ、久野里美代。
It was a tiny girl with glasses. I knew her face. That's the person that we took. She was the girl we'd seen at Age Tokyo Hospital.
つけられていたか。
見つけたからには皆さんの命はありません。平等にエゼクさんをします。
Who?
宮代さん、あなたもです。
Me too? For some reason, I didn't sound very worried. I was having trouble keeping up with this situation.
タク。
Sarika was clinging to me, a little afraid. It was rare to see her look like that way. Normally, she was optimistic and easygoing. As the man here, I needed to protect her.
私は風使い。人呼んでウィーゼルサイス。
ウィーゼルサイス。
That translated to...
イタチ。
I saw her nails were shining emerald green. Did she paint them with luminescent paint? Ooh.
セブンスのプラーガが出張ってくるとはな。
I have glow-in-the-dark nail polish. And then sometimes when I paint it glow-in-the-dark, I forget I did that. And then I turn the lights off and I go, why are they glowing?
だが分かっているのか。ここはセロパライドだぞ。力を使えばどうなるか。
知ったことではありません。
I'm gonna stretch real quick.
我が使命はただ一つ。計画の障害を取り除くことだけですから。
What plan?
させるか。
Wow! She zoomed away. Kurosata reached for her blade. But before she could,
可視化せよ、我が風。
a burst of wind blew through the room. The wind shone emerald green.
切り裂け。
島。
Whoa. The emerald wind surrounded Kunisata's body. Her clothes were torn apart. Not just her clothes, her beautiful skin and long black hair were ripped apart by invisible blades. Red blood flew through the air.
なんだよ。なんだよこれ。
Kunosato fell to the ground covered in blood. Her hand had just managed to grab the blade, but she couldn't fight like that. Kunosato was going to die. But all I could do was stand there and watch. If I interfered, I would meet the same fate. I would be exointed? Is that the word? Exointed?
オーガナイザー側のアウグルも質が落ちたものですね。久野里美代、 あなた程度で私を止められるとでも？
Kunosato gritted her teeth and staggered to her feet, using the sword as a support. That's crazy. You can't do anything like that. She'll just kill you.
いや、シロ。
With the last of her strength, Kunosato offered me her sword.
剣を取れ。
I'll take this sword. I'll treasure it
私
forever.
には使いこなせなかったが、お前なら、お前だからこそ
I can.
真の力を引き出せる。成層圏グラジオラスはお前のために、カオスチャイルドのためにある剣なんだから。
Well, I'm the... I thought I was gonna sneeze. Never mind. I'm the Chaos Child?
僕のためにある。
My name was the Chaos Child? Kunosato pushed it into my hands. Her arm strong, but not strong enough that she was forcing me to take it.
宮代拓戦え。
I will fight? Me?
戦え。でないとみんな死ぬ。
Well, I guess I must then. Must fight. And then Kunosato collapsed into my arms. I grabbed her, and suddenly my hands were slick with red blood. She'd always been intimidating that I thought she was much taller than me. But her body was so frail and so light. She was just a girl, too. But she'd fought so hard until the end, until she ended up like this. I had to do it. I didn't know what was going on. But if I didn't stop her, not only Kunosato's life, for my own life, but Sarika and Ito's lives would also be in danger as well. I would have to protect everyone. I set Kunosato on the ground. I motioned to Sarika and Ito to step back. I gripped the sword I'd been given tightly. Then I turned to face the girl in the glasses. Wibblewind?
話は終わりましたか、カオスチャイルド？
No. I glided her silently.
あなたがその剣を取るというのなら、ウィーゼルサイズの名にかけて容赦しません。真の覚醒へと至る前に、今ここでエゼクサンをします。
I didn't know what to expect, but if I did fight, I would die. I had to fight. I steeled myself and took a step towards I'm trying. I said it before. I can do it again. Bullwind? The end. Huh? You're in your last year of high school. What the hell are you thinking? Sure, any Japanese boy who grew up on manga could fantasize about something like that, but it was all tropes and cliches. If it had gotten launched in a magazine, it would be cancelled after 10 weeks. I blame the sword that was just sitting here in the corner. Hello! Dr. Deadbones, thank you for the raid! Hello, how's it going? Let me do this. Wait, how do I do it again? Oh wait, no, it's slash? Did I do it right? No, I spelled it wrong. Well, what's up? Are you trying to shout out Dr. Deadbones? Yes, I am. I know, I think I just spelt it wrong when I typed it. It's all good, yay! Glad to see you're doing well, yay, thank you! It's also... So... Yeah! I just... flipped around one of the letters, I think. I did it again! Here, I can do it, I can do it! I believe in you, yay! Don't worry about it! But I want to... Yay, I did it! Well, a little... It's a face! Where'd I go? To be honest, I don't really know how to use Twitch. Good job, yay, thank you! Yeah, I know, it's... some things are a little hard. But that's okay. But yeah! Yay! Have a good stream, I'm alert. Yeah! Yay! Thank you! Any boy who saw that sword would remember his dark history. Anyway, this was no time to be thinking about that sword.
ケイさん、俺マジファンなんす。声聞いてるだけで超癒されるっつうか。
Well, thank you for the lyrics. Yay! As I sat there fantasizing, Kunosato was tearing apart Ito's hopes and dreams. He was having a bad time.
それよりお前。
え？
お前だ、宮代拓。いちいち聞き返すな。
はい。なんでしょう。
Crap, she was really scary. Was the K that I loved only an image I created for myself? Yes, it was. That's what a parasocial relationship is. And was this girl who she really was? Yes. Kunosato stood by the wall and glared at me, oblivious to how I felt.
お前は何の能力者だ？
は？
My power? It was so sudden. that I didn't know what I'd been asked. Power? Who, me?
さっき言ったろ。あの地下施設は今厳重に封鎖されている。ど素人がそんな簡単に入り込めるような場所じゃない。
それはたまたまですよ。なんか偶然とか重なってうまく入れただけです。
隠すな。お前はそれを能力でやってのけたんだ。
だから違います。
監視モニターがいきなり起動したのだってそうだ。
What was she talking about? I didn't have any kind of powers. And wait. Kay, I respected you, so try not to disappoint me so much.
大体何を根拠にそんなことは。
地下施設にお前たちが潜入しているのを見つけたときにな。お前かそっちの彼か、どちらかが能力者じゃないかと疑った。
Kunasato pointed at me and Ito in turn.
俺もすか？
ああ。だが、お前の方はその後、何の反応も示さなかったからな。除外した。
反応
？11番目のロールシャッハ画像を見た時の反応だよ。
What? Kunisato's deep dark eyes were peering into me.
だが宮代拓、あの画像を見た時、お前は激しく動揺した。
いや、だってあんな気色悪い絵ですよ。当たり前じゃないですか。
お前のはそういう反応とは全く違う。あの画像を見た時にどう感じた？思い出してみろ。
The feeling I'd experienced when I'd seen the sumo sticker's image came back to me. When I looked at it, all the hairs on my body stood on end, and I was attacked by nightmarish delusions from which there was no escape. It was so scary I couldn't help but look away from it.
じゃあ、身の潔白を証明するためにもう一度見てみるか？あの画像を。
No. Kunasato turned toward her computer and opened up a folder. She watched my face carefully as she moved to click on an image inside the folder.
嫌です。やめてください。
I suddenly sank to the floor and sat down, sweat pouring from my body. I looked away from the computer. I didn't have the courage to look at that image right now.
いい加減にしてください。
Sarika interrupted with a yell. It was the first time in ages I'd heard her yell. I looked up to see her standing between me and Kunasato with her hands on her hips.
一体何なんですか？特に超能力ってそんなアニメや漫画みたいな話真面目にしてどうかしてますよ。
何？
尾上。
タクは人が殺された場所とかでいっぱいあのシールを見てきてるんです。気持ちが悪くなるの当たり前じゃないですか。私だってラブホの時のことを思い出して吐いちゃいそうになることありますけど。そんなくったらないことが証拠だって言うなら、私にだって超能力があるってことになりますよね。
いや、お前は違う。
なんでですか？
Sarika pushed harder. When she thought I was in trouble, sometimes she would turn into a totally different person. She would try to protect me in a different way than Kurisu. made me happy and made me feel better, but
尾上、ありがとう。けど、ちょっとだけ抑えてくれ。いいから。本当にサンキューな。
there was no way I had any kind of psychic power. But I'd already suspected that powers like that were involved in this case somehow. So I wanted to hear what Kunisato had to say. Kunisato looked at me for a moment, questioningly, and then sighed. Then she took out her phone and made a call. The person on the phone didn't seem very happy about it, but they eventually gave her approval. She nodded and hung up the phone, then spoke.
また出かけるぞ。まあ、今度は命の危険はないだろう。安心するがいい。
Well, okay then. It's the... Well...
こんな時間によう来たの。まだ閉店時間までは間があるゆえ、ゆるりと過ごしてゆくがよい。
Kunisato took me to Cafe Lax, where they put laxatives in the coffee. We were taken to a big table by the window. Come to think of it, I'd just been here a while ago. Last time it was to listen to the conversation between Hinai Arimura and Shinjo. While I was thinking about it, the person Kunusato had called walked into the cafe. They seemed upset. Blum bum bum.
Huh?
The little bells. When I looked up and saw who was there, I gasped.
こんな時間によう来たの。ゆるりと過ごしてゆくがよい。用が済んだらすぐに帰りますから。
遅かったな。
私にだって準備くらいあるんです。
Hinai Arimura? It was the girl I was just thinking about.
あれ、ひなちゃんだ。どうも。これってどういうことっすかね、先輩方。
知らねえって。俺に聞かないでくれ。
True. What was she inviting Hinai here for?
っていうか、久野里さん、便利に使って巻き込むのはやめてほしいって言いましたよね。
互いに情報の提供をする。そういう約束だろ。
そっちばっかり私を利用してるくせに。
いいから座れ。
Arimura sighed, glanced at us, and sat down with a frown on her face. There was an awkward moment after we ordered our drinks when no one spoke.
それで、何なんです？
Once our drinks arrived, Arimura, of course, was the first one to speak up.
口で説明するよりも見せた方が早いと思ってな。
Are those Gundams up there? Wow.
まさか、話したんですか？
利用価値がありそうだと判断した。
ほんと、勘弁してほしいんですけど。
From the way they were talking, Arimura must have known about the powers as well. And...
つべこべ言わずに見せてやれ。
show them... Wait, she couldn't mean...
嫌ですよ、めんどくさい。
宮代拓が能力者かどうか確証を得たい。
いや、だからですね。僕はそんな。
間違いなく能力者ですよ。
How's she know? Arimura spoke as if it was the most normal thing in the world.
有村。
おい、本当か宮代。
信じられないよ。
だから僕は知らないって。
なるほどね。知らないというのは本当みたいです。無自覚なんですね。
無自覚も何も、有村はなんでそんなこと言い切れるんだよ。
あれ、思い当たる節ありませんか？
そんなのあるわけ。
If I had that power, I would have used it for something.
でも自分がこうなってほしいと思ったところでいつも特別なことが起きたりしたでしょ。例えば例のラブホテルに先輩が潜入した時、あの時部屋には確かに鍵がかかっていたんですよ。なのに先輩はどうやって入ってきたんです？
嘘だ。鍵は開いてた。
いいえ、閉まってました。けどいきなり開いたんです。だよね、セリ。
Yeah. Zerika hesitated for a moment and looked at me.
確かにガチャって。
Click.
尾上。
ほら、それが宮代先輩の能力です。
My power? No way.
おそらく望んだように物体を動かす能力、いわゆるテレキネシス、あるいはサイコキネシスか。それを持っている。病院の地下施設にあんな簡単に侵入できたのもそのおかげだ。
本当かよ。
Ita was looking at me in shock.
いや、待ってくれ。違う。
Sure, when I'd gone to the psych ward and the underground lab, I had a lot of coincidences. I had a lot of coincidences. I think I added words or something to it. Sure, when I'd gone to the psych ward and the underground lab, a lot of coincidences had happened all at once. Doors that would normally be locked weren't. When I'd gone down to the underground facility from the autopsy room, something had gotten stuck and I'd been able to open the secret door. But
そんな特殊な能力なんて本当にあるわけ。
oh no, too many of those things happened at
でもさ、
once.
宮代言ってたよな。今回の事件の鍵かもしれないって。
それはそうだけど。
Sure, I'd been saying it just a little while ago, but only after being told that I was psychic did I understand. I hadn't actually really believed it. When I'd said it aloud, I'd acted like it was some brilliant theory, but in my mind, I'd still been treating it as fiction. I mean, you know, right? How could I have something so crazy?
先輩、今から言う質問にすべていいえで答えてください。
は？なんだよいきなり。
いいから答えてください。いいですね。
あ、はい。
I nodded, since it didn't seem like I was going to be given a chance to disagree. What's she gonna ask?
自分のクラスの人間はバカばっかりだと思っている。
いいえ。
でも本当はその輪の中に入りたいと思っている。
いいえ。
一人でカラオケに行ったことがある。
いいえ。
一人でカラオケに行ったけれど一曲も歌ってはいない。
いいえ。
クルス先輩と一緒に暮らしていた時、クルス先輩のお風呂を覗いちゃったことがある。
いいえ。
なるほど、わかりました。
What do you understand? Arimura nodded and smiled.
わかったって何が？
まず最初の質問。宮代先輩はみんなバカばっかりだと思ってますね。
そんなことは。
それから次。そうは言っても本当は寂しくてみんなの輪の中に入りたいとそう思ってます。
違う。僕は何の生産性もない会話になんて。
カラオケに一人で行きましたね。
それは新聞部の取材で言っただけだ。でも歌っては。
それは嘘です。
え？
本当は歌いました。
歌ってない。
一曲だけですか？
だから歌ってないってば。
なるほど。一曲だけ歌ったんですね。
Yep, just one song.
おい、宮代、本当か？お前あれだけ歌ってないって否定してたよな。
Arimura? How do you know this stuff? It had seemed like a waste, so I did sing one song.
最後にお風呂でクルス先輩を。
もういい、やめろ。
タク。
Sarika pushed down on the Garo Froggy strap. It made a noise like the "you lose" buzzer in a game show. Is this a TV variety show or something?
違うんだ。あれはユードがいたずらして、今なら誰も入ってないって言うからドアを開けたら、それに慌てて目をつぶったから何も見てない。本当だぞ。
Do you have any idea what the hell I went through after that? Just remembering it terrified me. Wait, no.
それが一体何だって言うんだ。
わかりませんか？今のが私の能力です。
Knowing when people lie.
他人の口にした言葉が嘘か真実かわかる。それが私の能力なんです。
She could tell if someone was lying? And then I finally realized the way Arimura had acted and the things she said.
言葉に出してもらってもいいですか？
Was that what that was about?
彼女の言ってること、本当かな？
いや、ホットリーディングやコールドリーディングって可能性もあるし。
Wait, what's the difference between hot reading and cold reading? A method primarily used by the self-proclaimed psychics and spiritualists, where agents are used to learn about a target or subject in advance. The psychic then pretends that the information was gained through clairvoyance or mind reading to make it seem as if they have special powers. Yeah.
ホットリーディング？
つまり事前に調査してって後で自分で調べろ。
ああ、もういい。面倒だ。
Minasato looked annoyed and bored as she watched our conversation.
あれを見せてやれ。それが一番早い。
あれですか？こんなところで？
So what?
宮代以外には見えないはずだ。
そうかもしれません。けど。
Ah, the sword! Arimura looked toward the ground. Show me something. Wait, what was she going to show me? She nodded reluctantly, and then suddenly stood up in front of me.
宮代先輩。
何？
よく見ててください。
And then she lifted up her skirt. What? No, that's not what happened. Oh my god. What are you going to show me? I almost asked, but then I stopped. Suddenly, she stretched her right hand out to the side. She inhaled slowly and seemed to draw something out of the air. What is it? As I sat there astonished, she pulled something impossible out of empty air. Whoa! It was wrapped, but yet elegant. Ugly yet fascinating. It was inorganic and yet organic at the same time. It was as if it contained every shape in the world. It was oh, it's so pretty. Wow.
ケン
But wasn't this the same thing Kunosato had at her apartment? The shape was different, but it had the same terrible feeling to it. But Arimura had just pulled it out of the air.
どうやったんだ
Arimura looked unhappy as she saw my shock.
やっぱり見えるんですね。
Yeah.
何の話タク？
ケンってなんだよ。
見えないのか二人とも
Sarika and Ito both shook their heads.
そんなバカな
It was huge. How could they not see it? I quickly looked around the room, but no one else, not the customers or the employees, was looking at the thing in Arimura's hand. No. They couldn't see it.
これで決まりだな。
どういうことなんですかこれ
今、有村ひなえが手にしているもの。それが能力者の証だ。ディソードと呼ばれている。
ディソード
We go with the D swords again. I'm sure it'll be quicker this time, rather than in Chaos Head. Ah! I heard her use that sword before. I didn't realize that she was talking about this, though.
その状態のディソードは能力者にしか目視できない。つまり、それが見えるお前は間違いなく能力者ということだよ。
Kunisato's cold voice dropped even lower than usual.
でも僕そんな能力なんて本当に使った覚えもないし
でも事実だ。
I couldn't believe it. So much was going through my head that I couldn't think. I looked over at the D-sword again. Arimura fiddled with it and snorted.
まあ、同じギガロマニアックス同士、もう少し仲良くしときますかね、先輩。
ギガロマニアックス
I remember Kunosato using that word before, too.
我々は能力者のことをそう呼んでいる。ギガロマニアックスと。
呼び方なんかどうでもいいです。それよりやっぱり信じられません。僕のそのサイコキネシスとかそんなの非科学的です。
ああ、サイコキネシスというのはお前がイメージしやすいようにそう言っただけだ。実際はもっと科学的な概念が存在する。
Whoa.
科学的
Science. I looked at Arimura's sword skeptically. Scientific? That? Yeah, well, it's a butterfly. Wait. Isn't everything kind of science?
ああ、無理 ですよ、久野里さん。説明とかしてもさっぱりわかんないと思います。ちなみに私は一つも理解できてません。
お前と一緒にすんな。僕はこれでも。
You're actually
はい
what?
はい。
Damn it! She was pissing me off!
理解などしなくていい。ただ最低限のことだけは覚えておけ。ギガロマニアックスの能力をカートゥーンに登場するような超能力と同じように使うな。そんな安易なものでも愉快なものでもない。
何が違うって言うんです？
ギガロマニアックスの能力とは、簡単に言えば自らの妄想を現実に変換する力だ。
妄想現実に変換？
What was she talking about? That wasn't scientific at all.
ディラックの海という言葉を、まあ知らないだろうな。
ディラックの海。
Circus started to fidget on the sofa. She probably couldn't follow what we were talking about at all, but she could tell that I was nervous.
確か量子力学の中の概念ですよね。
ほう、驚いたな。一階の高校生が知っているとは。
For some reason, a lot of people on the Japanese internet loved relative theory. I'm going to redo the sentence. For some reason, a lot of people on the Japanese internet loved relative theory and quantum mechanics. Schrodinger's cat, for example, had been discussed so many times by now that it was considered an embarrassment to even bring it up. So, I knew a little.
真空を負のエネルギーに満たされた空間だと定義するんですよね。で、そこをディラックの海って呼ぶ。
ああ、そうだ。ディラックの海はマイナスエネルギーに満ちた世界ということになる。
Kunasato looked at Arimura's hands as she held the D-sword. And then Arimura smiled, a little wickedly.
で、そのなんとかの海とこの剣を使って妄想を現実にできるんですよ。リアルブートっていうらしいですけどね。
リアルブート。
ディソードは剣の形をしているが、実はただの武器じゃない。ディラックの海に干渉し、現実との間のパイプとなる端末だ。ギガロマニアックスがその端末を用いると、本来現実空間の中に存在できないはずの負のエネルギーを引き出すことができる。するとホールセオリーによるペアクリエーションで粒子と反粒子が生まれる。それがエラーとなって他人の脳のデッドスポットに影響を与えるんだ。
脳のデッドスポット？
Dead spots of the brain?
デッドスポットというのは人間の脳における視覚野の視覚だよ。そこに影響を与えられるということは、つまり自分の妄想をそこへ送り込み、妄想通りのものを相手に見せられるということだ。しかも相手にとってそれは完全な現実として認識される。
でもそんなのただの幻覚じゃないですか。催眠術と同じですよ。
催眠術？そうか。じゃあその妄想を自分の周りの人間全員がリアルな現実だと共通認識してしまったらどうだ？
共通認識？
そうだ。さらにそれが渋谷中の人間の共通認識になったら、そしてその共通認識が東京中の人間、日本中の人間、 果ては世界中の人間にまで広がっていったとしたら、一体誰がそれを現実じゃないと否定できるんだ。
それは。
そうしたら妄想はすでに作り事でも幻覚でもなくなる。紛れもない現実と化すんだよ。だからそれはリアルブートと呼ばれている。
そんなバカな。だってそんなことで現実がねじ曲げられるなんて。
I rub my head with my fingers, trying to make sense out of all this.
仮にいいですか。仮にですよ。僕がそのギガロマニアックスだったとして。だけど閉まってるドアの鍵を開けるとか、そんな風に妄想が物理現象にまで影響を与えるなんて不可能ですよ。
私たち含め研究者たちも当初はそう考え楽観視していた。だがそんな甘いものじゃなかったんだ。
え？
物理現象すらねじ曲げるんだよ。ギガロマニアックスの妄想とそれによって共通認識化された現実は。だからこそそれはこの上なく危険なんだ。
Whoa. I looked at Arimura's sword, then back at Kunosato. Arimura was still smiling as she held the sword in front of me. I couldn't tell if she was I couldn't tell if it was the light it gave off, what was holy or evil, but for a moment it was so beautiful that I shivered. October 11th, 2015, Sunday. I'm thinking this is probably a good place to leave off and save for next time. So let's save it. Where is it? There it is. Save it right there. And let's see. Two, okay. Let's look for someone. Let's raid. Whee!